Okay, let's talk about the KPACKs in Design Magic. So we've already got a video that talks about the new Metashape product. What I want to talk about now are all of these insert libraries, which we call KPACKs. So if you look at Design Magic after you have successfully installed it, you'll see you have a list of all these different KPACKs. And what I want to go over now are kind of the basic ones. So keep in mind that KitOps allows you to build things with each one of these inserts. And an insert is basically anything in these thumbnails, right? So this is the DM solids. So I want to talk about the DM solids and the DM minus, which these are all cutters. These are all things that are going to difference cut. And these are the pluses. These are the pluses. So these are all the difference Boolean ones. So let's go over those right now. And to be clear, there's a lot of overlap between all three of these. For instance, this cube is here, it's here, and it's also here in the DM plus KPACK. I'll explain to you a little bit about how they work, but I'm not going to go through each one of them. Suffice to say that each one of these inserts is set up with different modifiers, so you can change it very easily. So let's go ahead and add this insert, and this is a solid, and I typically will start any model with one of these solids, right? So I'll add this insert, and there's a cube. Now, with this being added, the first thing I'm going to do is remove KitOps props. And that allows me now to add more inserts on top of this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add another cube, but this is a difference modifier. So let's look at the modifier list for this one. And you'll see we already have a couple modifiers on here. And I'm going to add this insert. And as you can see, if I hit the N key, I can move it around. And it's actually sitting directly on top. So if I move it down, it won't. Let me turn off face orientation so we can see what's going on. Both these cubes have pretty much the same modifiers. This cube is selected, and I'm going to add now a cylinder cutter to this object. So with this cube selected, you'd think the cylinder would be cutting this cube, but it's not. It's going to cut the target of this cube. And there it is. So that is the reason why when I first added this insert, I removed the KitOps props, because KitOps is smart enough to know that even if an insert is selected, when you add another insert to it, it's going to identify the target. If I go over here and I look at this cube right here, you'll see that there's a difference in a cylinder. If I go here and hit X and delete, now that difference is gone, right? So that's gone. So let's talk about this particular cube. And if I turn on these little icons here, you see that now I've actually added radiuses to these edges on this cube. And if I turn these on, now I've added a bevel on the upside and the downside of this cube. And if I want, I can adjust the segments. So we kind of talk about modifiers in another video, but you kind of get an idea of how this works. And of course, if I go to this cube over here and do the same, I'm going to get a cutout here. And remember, as long as we're using our KitOps toggle VP display, viewport display, we can hold the Control, Alt, Shift, and Z key down and toggle between wireframe, bounding box, and solid mode. If I want, I can reorganize these. I can hit this toggle stack button and I can reorganize these. If I want to put the bevel on the bottom, now I've added a bevel to the bottom of it. So that's basically how the modifiers work. So let's kind of go into some of these and look at them. Okay, let's add another one. Let's look at this cylinder. So this is a cylinder, and I'm going to turn on wireframe here so you can see what's going on. So this is a cylinder, but it is parametric. And what I mean by that is I can adjust the number of faces on this cylinder by just dragging this number right here. So one thing I should mention is that a lot of times I might make the mistake of just turning this on. And this looks great here, but if I don't turn this on, it's not going to render correctly. So just keep that in mind. When you turn one on, turn the other one on. Okay, and then lastly, this one is off by default, but you can add it, and then you're going to get a bevel across the top, and you can adjust that. Remember, it's 1 or 8, so, and you can adjust the size of it too. You get the idea. So let's look at some more. Now, you may see some of these are wireframe, and they're wireframe thumbnails because it just allows you to see them a little better, understand what they look like a little more. So if I look at this box bullet, for instance, and I add that insert, and you can see that we have, it's a regular box. Now we've added these radiuses. We weld it together to make sure that we have a solid. And then we have this bevel on top. And that bevel, again, we can change the amount and we can change the number of faces. Okay, so keep in mind, anytime we scale this, let's scale this down, for instance. You know, And if we scale it wide, you're going to get a distortion, and you may want that, and that's fine. You can use this still as as any type of kit out shape, and you can use that. But if you want to make it so that it doesn't have that, you're going to have to use the object apply scale, right? So that's also Control A scale, and when you do that, you'll get your object will come back, snap back into something that has some semblance to the original. So that's one thing to keep in mind. This is kind of a favorite, this fillet wall insert. I'm going to add that insert. And the reason why I like this one is that it's great for setting behind a scene. If you can see that this is sitting directly on the ground plane. So when you add it, it's going to be a perfect, like a filleted wall that you can use to render an object. So for instance, if you were to, let's remove the kit ops and let's go ahead and add, something on top of here. So if you're trying to render this object, you might put this wall behind it and it'll help you get a nice looking set. The other thing about this wall is that, of course, just like everything else, you've got a number of bevels and you can adjust the size of that bevel as well. So this pie insert is an interesting one. Let's add that insert. And you can see what it has is it's got 2 inserts, right? So in order to edit this one, you're going to have to get out of smart mode. You have to go into regular mode. And you can take this and you can scale it, and it's going to basically cut into this shape. And then you can go into here and we say 120, so you can add here as well, and you're going to make it a little larger. If you want to create more steps, you just add them right here. And then of course our solidify is what gives us our height. So if I jack this up, I can adjust the height. So that's kind of a interesting insert. Go back to smart mode. Smart mode is going to allow me to select everything at once and move it all at once, right? If I don't have smart mode selected and I select one thing, I may be moving it, out and about. And in this case, it kind of screws things up, as you can see. So Vertex Extrude is kind of a neat insert, and let me show you how that works. I'm going to basically tab into this, and let's look at it from a wireframe standpoint. As you can see, if I select all of the vertices, you'll see that there's only 4 vertices that make this up. If I want to add 2 more, I can just right-click and say subdivide, and I can just add as many as I want here. And then I can just take these and move them in or do whatever I want to. So this is a solid volume that I can edit, but it's going to be extruded at the end of the day. So let's take a look at some of the kind of cool things that we can do here. So first off, we can obviously always just move these points in and out, and we can add points and do things to that. Now, a lot of times we want symmetry on something, and honestly, it's not that hard just to add a mirror modifier to this. And in this case, we modified it on the x-axis. Now when we do that, in order to make sure that it works correctly, first off, let's make sure we bisect it. And by bisecting it, it's important because what that is going to do is going to give us the ability to make sure that it's solid. And then the second thing, the flip is going to say which side are we mirroring, right? So the flip will give us that. So, and I can also do it on the Y as well if I want to. So I can do both. The other thing is that we have this bevel. 2 bevels. The first one is actually going to bevel these points, right? So if I look at each one of these points, they have a bevel weight, as you can see. And as I adjust that bevel weight, it goes bigger and smaller. Now, sometimes you may say, well, first off, I want at 1, the heaviest bevel weight, I want it to be larger. So let's go in here and let's just make it larger. So we'll make it larger. Now it's only going to go as large as it can, and then it's going to create some problems. So we just make it larger, and then we can basically say, let's add some more segments to it. And now we've done that. And as you can see, we have a nice shape. It's a nice shape in the sense that we can, we can modify this all day long. And then when we're finished and we remove the kit ops props, we can still continue to modify it, make no mistake. But now I can come in and, add inserts on it to continue to model. And this is what we mean by non-destructive modeling. Even now I can come back in here, grab this, move it in and out, and I still got the ability to non-destructively model this. And let's look at one last one. This is the Vertex Path one. Add that insert, and again, we're going to go into the wireframe and tab into it. And notice this is literally just a polyline. And as you can see, I can drag these vertices around. Now, one thing I want to be real careful of, if I cross over like is going on here, this is not going to be a solid model anymore, and it's going to create problems as we try and add things to it. So let's be careful about that doesn't happen. Same over here. So there's a couple ways that we can prevent this kind of thing from happening. One is we look over here in the vertices setting and we just adjust the amount. So by adjusting the amount, we're going to be able to pretty much fix that. There we go. You can see that we're adding them out so it makes it a little bit larger. The other way is to actually, let's just go back into something that's not working right, is to just go into solidify. And let's just make this a little smaller. And now you see that that'll work fine. And don't forget, each one of these vertices has their own bevel weight. So you can adjust the actual radius for that vertex just by sliding the bevel weight higher or lower. And at 0, of course, there's no bevel weight at all. I like to keep the ones at the end at 0 if possible. So that's going to be a good introduction to the solids.